This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome in to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Here on 107.5 The Game, Tyler Head, Chris Clark, still along with you as we were in the last hour. Wes Mitchell arriving right on time, as he always does. Literally seconds before the microphones come on. Hey, Wes, how's it going?
I've been in the building. I'm making a Terry Ford entrance, you could say.
No,
that's after the show starts.
Have you heard what we've started doing with Terry on the halftime show when he shows up late?
No.
I play John Cena's theme song when he finally walks in.
It's pretty awesome, actually.
Do we need a Wes theme song?
No, because I always walk in right before it is a talent. Before we go on air. Nobody would even know if you didn't say Tyler. Just like that's every time Tyler brings this up, I'm bringing up the fact that Tyler's a Georgia fan.
It's my way of getting back at you. We got to go back and forth.
We spent a whole segment last hour on the Garnet Trust Hour West talking about Steve Spurrier, so that may have sufficiently triggered Tyler. He didn't show it, but it might have.
Yeah. Some tough games back in the day.
Was that your most reviled coach?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
At that point in time. Now, Urban Meyer is definitely up there. But like this, the Georgia-South Carolina game, there were so many years where I felt like Georgia was definitely the better team and South Carolina still won the game. Those were the most frustrating ones. Because, the Urban Meyer Florida years, okay, 08, Florida was a way better team. They beat the crap out of Georgia. That made sense. But, the 07 Georgia team, I think was better than the 07 South Carolina team and still lost.
Probably.
Same deal with 2014. Still lost. You know what I mean? Those are the frustrating ones.
Well, the Urban, he had, it's the classic. Urban Meyer comes in, he brings in some talent, he wins a title or two, and then you go down the backslide and he leaves. So
pretty much.
For fans against an Urban program, it's kind of short-lived. For people in the East, it was, dealt with Spurrier for, over a decade at Florida, then turn around. Oh, wow, he won't leave Columbia either. So it's just this guy is constantly a pain.
And every time a Georgia player got in trouble in the offseason, I was Spurrier's going to bring this up. He's going to mention this. It's and I can't do a good Spurrier impression. Well, thing about Georgia, they always got 2 or 3 of them guys locked up at the beginning of the season, right?
Well, wasn't wrong, but I think with Spurrier, here's my question that comes to mind though, and I feel like we're diving off into an off-season conversation when we're I'd say we're in season, even though the season has not started. But I would like to know on the Firehouse Subs text line, have we forgiven Steve Spurrier yet? South Carolina fans, Gamecock alums. Are we still mad, or have we forgiven him?
So this is an interesting question because I was obviously not here when all that went down. What was the vibe around here when he did depart in 2015? What was that
mad.
like? Big mad.
Yeah. Lots of people still big mad. He quit. People very quickly forgot how fun those 3 11-win seasons were. And then, even the thing is, the year before the 11 wins, you go to the SEC East Championship, and the year before it all fell apart, South Carolina still ended up, it was kind of an ugly season. It wasn't as pretty as the 3 before. It was still a winning record, and still, I believe, involved a win over Georgia, Tyler. So, I think we kind of get spoiled a little bit, obviously, in sports, and I'm getting spoiled right now as a Braves fan.
Yep.
Just enjoy it while it's here. I feel like some fans complained all the way through the 33 dubs in 3 years. It was just like, this isn't fun.
What's the quote from Andy of The Office where he's like, I wish you knew when the good old days were taking place, or something like that?
That's a great quote. I actually wrote something on that this morning. It was called The Fun Zone, Gamecocks Connection. It's supposed to be fun.
Sure.
And I'm stealing this from Wes, but you get 12 games a year, sometimes more, but you're guaranteed 12, unless there's an act of God, a storm, whatever. 7 of them are at home. It's supposed to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
You got to cherish the moment. It's going to be up and down. This is not, keep talking about Georgia, this is not going to be Georgia last year.
Yeah.
They're not going to, South Carolina, let's get this straight. They're probably not going to steamroll every team that they play. Even Georgia had some close calls last year.
They did.
There's going to be ups and downs. Last year, there were some bad moments. Missouri, Florida, but there were also some great moments. Tennessee, Clemson. But Wes, I was thinking about this. After the Tennessee and Clemson get literally 2 of the best weeks that you couldn't even conceive of how awesome that was. Couldn't have dreamed it. And not even a month later was one of the most miserable times I've ever had covering the program. And all that happened was Shane Beamer was just hiring an offensive coordinator. That's all that happened. Nothing went wrong. Marcus Satterfield left, which everybody seemed to want. Mm-hmm. And because they didn't hire whoever, Garrett Riley, or whoever was on your personal hot board, all that was wiped away.
Yeah.
It was just, and it was terrible.
That's
toxic.
The Dow Loggins press conference, I think, was in my first or second week here. And I remember man, they really don't like this hire. Now he ended up having a very good press conference, and I think has since won a lot of people over. And now, again, we still have not seen him actually call a play for South Carolina. He's still got 17 days to see that happen. But
give it 2 weeks.
We're definitely in a lot different place than we were back in December.
Yeah, we are. Give it 2 weeks, though.
That's true. The first drive of the game, 3 and out. There go the message boards.
You know it's coming. But some of that is just. Some of that's why we enjoy sports. I get it. Yelling
Ride the roller coaster.
Yelling at your TV, all that stuff
it's
at
part
the
of
moment.
Experience.
We all yell at our TV, but let's find the line here. Let's find the, let's stay out of the land of toxicity, if you will. And but it will, the roller coaster. So I did a call in for a radio show this morning. They're like, Wes, how many wins? And I'm like, I hate when y'all ask me this question, because who can say? And even if you blindly guess the number and get lucky, there's not a soul on this earth that I believe went through and picked every single game correctly for South Carolina last year, wins and losses.
No.
Maybe they got the number, but how it went down, 0 shot.
Sure.
So that to me is why we love college sports. That's part of the reason why, but also why it is such a roller coaster. And, it's a little bit different than your pro team. Those are the guys that, they wear the jersey that you pull for. You grew up liking that logo because your grandma watched them when you were young or whatever. But there's a deeper connection to your school, your university. And, you want to see them do well, but also these are college kids. It's going to be up. It's going to be down. And we've seen Shane. The one thing that has been consistent has been that this has been a program for 2 years that, yes, has had some moments where they just did not play up to their capability, while simultaneously having moments where everybody outside of that program was ready to be like, man, this season isn't going the way it needs to. And they dug themselves out and played incredible games against Florida 2 years ago, a good game against Auburn 2 years ago, a great game against North Carolina 2 years ago in the bowl game, and then obviously 2 great games against Tennessee and Clemson this past year, and one of the best just back and forth fun bowl games, win or loss, that we've seen in a while for South Carolina. So this team is going to be up, it's going to be down, as Chris's newsletter said, and you got to kind of just enjoy the ride a little bit, and maybe don't give up so easily, because Beamer has proved he's going to keep this thing pulling in the right direction, even when it kind of at times has looked a little bit scary.
Yeah, as cliche as it sounds, we hear players and coaches say this all the time. Take it one week at a time, 1-0. Focus on North Carolina. Enjoy that game for whatever it is. Hopefully it's a good one and South Carolina comes up on top. Then focus on the next week, the next week. Because everybody likes to project so far down the road in this game in week 8 and week 9 and week 10. It's like, it's just one step at a time.
So they another question they asked, very open-ended, how important is the North Carolina game for South Carolina? And I didn't really on the spot know exactly how to answer, because it's one of those things, it is just one game. Like, sure. In the big picture, it's one game out of 12. But it also completely changes the entire vibe of the first probably month of the season based on what you do in that game. Because let's be honest, on paper, Georgia's going to be very tough to beat. On paper, Furman ain't beating South Carolina. So you're going to have a home game against Mississippi State in week 4, either sitting there 1-2 with your one win being over Furman, or you're going to be sitting there 2-1 with a win over an ACC opponent who's right across the border from you, and saying, it's Georgia at Georgia. Pretty much everybody loses that game. Right. So that, if you want to, I kind of like when people break the schedule into fourths or into thirds and kind of try to divide it up that way. If you sort of look at these first 4 games, or the first 3 games even, that to me is like the swing game percentage-wise that is going to affect how we're talking, how we're thinking, and really how you when you start to count up, they're projecting to this bowl, and we get way too ahead of ourselves on that stuff. But it's a huge swing game.
It is, and I think preseason, I do think it's going to end up having a big effect on the season in general if you can win the game. Now, if you lose it, again, you don't need to fold the program.
Sure.
Like, I think back to last season, so different vibe. Last year, USC starts with Georgia State. It was a pretty unimpressive win, as much as a 21-point win can be, but they won the game and ended up winning comfortably. Well, you had a big swing game last year, too, and it was Arkansas on the road. Mm-hmm. And then you had to go play Georgia. So you lose to Arkansas. You lose 2 defensive starters in the process. You don't play that well. Then you got to go play Georgia. You're banged up. You get destroyed. 1-2. Not a great outlook. But then you get to play Charlotte, SC State. Then you win the 2 big games against Kentucky A&M. So there wasn't that right off the bat tone setter at the beginning of the year. You had to go play Georgia State. No disrespect to them. Not as good as North Carolina. Not as difficult a game as North Carolina. So I think, Wes, you lose this one. It's hard to predict because, nobody would have picked Carolina to go beat Tennessee and Clemson last year after they just got whipped by Florida. And what we had seen the rest of the year from this team. But they did, right? So if they lose week 1, that doesn't mean they're toast the rest of the year. If they win it, though, I do think it's something more you can build off of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I hate the phrase must win. I think that gets thrown around way too much. This is definitely not a must win, but it would certainly help your program if you do. And I think it's more winnable on paper than that Arkansas game last year, right?
Probably so.
Carolina was, from what I remember, a decent underdog to Arkansas.
Was ranked number 16 at the time. You remember how much, after that game, we're is Arkansas a top 10 or 15 team? They didn't end up being.
Arkansas had a lot of hype early on last season.
They did.
I remember my thought was that game would determine which program, other than kind of the the quote big boys in the SEC. If South Carolina had won, they were going to be tabbed, oh, well, they're the dark horse in the East. And then if Arkansas won, they were going to keep receiving a ton of hype as, hey, this is the dark horse in the West at the time. And that, for a while, they did continue to get some of that hype because we're always kind of looking, who is that team that's not quite there yet but has a chance to play spoiler? And it felt like Arkansas, especially with what they had in the running game last year. And the other thing I remember from that week is just watching, man, this Trey Knox guy, he is a matchup nightmare. And now, obviously, in Columbia.
Absolutely. Well, that game against North Carolina is just 17 days away. We heard from some more offensive players yesterday as camp rolls on. We'll hear what they had to say coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
I don't know about y'all, but it's 11:15. I am hungry. I need some Firehouse Subs. I'm going to order this thing on the app before I walk out of the building. I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive by, and it's going to be waiting for me right there on the shelf. There's two easy ways to do that. You can do firehousesubs.com, or you can just do what I do. Get the app, download it on your phone, sign up, sign in, save all your information on there. You can gather rewards as you go. I'm eating free like crazy right now, Chris, because I got all these rewards points racked up on the app. But even if I didn't have the rewards, right now I can get the new pepperoni pizza meatball sub. Can we still call it new? It's at least new-ish. It is for a limited time. You can get it for $6 on the app. Firehouse Subs also, as always, has their sub of the day every single day, $7.99 medium. Get the app, go to firehousesubs.com, order right now.
Sounds from the offense coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on one.
You loved Lala Kent on Vanderpump Rules. Now get to know her on Give Them Lala.
Is it weird having a million things to talk about and the only thing he wanted to talk about is Bravo?
Yes, and it's always weird. It's like when I went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner and thought that this was my chance to make a change, and they were like, well, enough about change. Stand up. And then I have so many questions for Howie that had nothing to do, and he was like, so scandalous.
Give Them Lala, wherever you listen.
107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
I like it a lot, man, because he's he can feed me the rock, of course. But he got the NFL background. You know, the NFL uses tight ends a lot. He doesn't come in our room, and coach us himself because he with quarterbacks. But when we do have those team settings and we watch film, he coaches everybody, man. Like talking about a student of the game, always learning, knows what he's talking about. That's Coach Loggins. So it's like he coaches everybody, honestly, when we have those team settings, even on the field. You know what I'm saying? He watches everything, and if he catches it, he coaches it.
Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. That was the voice of South Carolina tight end Josh Simon yesterday talking to the media about Dow Loggins and his new offense and the relationship that he has with the tight ends, obviously coming over from being the tight ends coach at Arkansas to being the OC here at South Carolina. And Josh mentioned something there that I don't think anybody's specifically really brought up in terms of talking about this offense, the fact that Dow Loggins only has experience calling plays at the NFL level, and the NFL offense does utilize tight ends a lot more than a lot of traditional college football offenses do, and that just kind of reinforces what we all believe to be true, that Dow Loggins is going to feature the tight ends quite a bit this year.
The interesting thing about South Carolina and its, I would say, ongoing connection with the tight end position, it's like that off-season joke about, hey, call into the call-in show and say, throw the ball to the tight ends. But to be honest, South Carolina does use the tight end traditionally better than most. And, I think pretty much every year there's discussion about South Carolina's tight ends. And, it's, hey, these guys are going to be on the field at the same time, 2 tight end sets. And then whatever that group is, I mean, you can go back to like the Wesley Saunders days, the Jared Cook days, throw in the Jarrell Adams days. And basically when that group moves along, you're kind of like, well, hey, this may be a little bit more of a 3 wide, 1 tight end is kind of the base set a lot of teams use now. But inevitably, South Carolina tends to just reload their tight end room. And that's kind of been the case. They completely reloaded it this year. And, you know, I think you look at Trey Knox, you look at Josh Simon, you look at the skill set, you look at what they can do. I think not even just because the NFL aspect of the offense, I just think purely from a, hey, let's get our best guys on the field standpoint. To me, those 2 guys are probably going to be on the field a lot. And both of them are guys who are pass catchers, but I think will be pretty adequate, like for what we think of, oh, that guy's a receiver turned tight end. No, I think both those guys are going to be very effective doing what they need to do as far as being physical and being blockers as well, which as a staff allows you to do some different things with them on the field.
Yeah, these guys are really, I think, true like dual threat guys. You know, because Trey Knox, remember when we talked to him, Wes, for a Garnet Trust interview at one point for Gamecock Central, you know, you definitely think of Trey as more of a receiver. I mean, coming out of high school, he was I think 205-pound, 4-star wide receiver, moves to tight end. But you talk to him, you can tell he's kind of a student of the game too. Like he enjoys the blocking aspect. He doesn't shy away from the blocking aspect. And obviously he has receiver skills. As you said, watching him play at Arkansas during his career, including last year against South Carolina, you can see this guy's a tough matchup with his size, his ball skills. But he's also big enough and physical enough to be a good blocker. Same thing with Simon. Like, Simon has played a lot more ball. I think I even forget sometimes, you know, how many touchdowns he's caught, how many balls he's caught, how much he's played during his career at Western Kentucky. Smaller level. But you see this guy, his physical traits, and it's easy to see that they translate to this level. And so I think with like Knox got more hype coming into South Carolina just because he played at an SEC school. He was a former 4-star. But I think South Carolina was always excited about Simon. And I think he very quickly, like even dating back to the spring, very quickly made his mark. And I think he's been what they expected plus more. And then you add in the other guys. They got some youngsters on the team that it looks like are probably hits.
There's your youngsters count for the month.
Man, I keep doing that one. I hope Kendall Smith is not listening.
Kendall Smith will be in town on Saturday, by the way.
She will.
Party.
I would be looking forward to it, other than she'll call me old again. Happy birthday, by the way, to Kendall from yesterday.
Belated. Yeah. Happy birthday, Kendall.
Belated birthday. No, I'm with you. I think the curious thing will be to see what happens after those guys. You know, Elksness probably next in line. You know, then you start getting into some freshmen. Reed McKeska has been banged up. You look at, you know, I from what I've seen, think Connor Cox is a potentially surprise guy down the line. Cam Sandlin has been more of a running back. And obviously, yeah, this guy looks the part. Like we said that when he was being recruited, physically impressive. Down the line, he could give you snaps at tight end as well, but just sort of is more needed in the running back room right now. So, you know, I think that's a position that they should feel, and they do feel really good about it. You also are going to have to avoid injuries, or you do start to kind of get into some potential depth issues in that area, I think, as well.
Yeah. You know, Simon has another year of eligibility. We talked to him not too long ago, Wes. It kind of seems like this is last year for him. You never know. See how it goes. But Knox, this is his last year. Simon, it might be his last year. So, in a way, you're going to be replacing that room again, at least the guys who actually made an impact for you. But you have recruited well. I mean, you brought in basically a 5-man tight end class of varying levels, and I think it was important for South Carolina to do that. You didn't need to just take 2 portal guys who were going to be here a year and 1 high school guy. It ended up they take 3 portal guys, one's kind of in the middle. You take 2 high school guys who have different skill sets. Cox, I think, is going to be underrated as a pass catcher. But I remember in recruiting, South Carolina loved his blocking ability, and I think he's probably been that I've heard some really good things about workouts. Remember Nick Gargiulo, Wes, offensive lineman, who drew a lot of praise yesterday from his teammates. He praised Connor Cox a lot for what he did in summer workouts. The guy looks really good physically. McKeska, I think it'll be a little slower going, with one reason being because he has been banged up, as you said, and maybe a few weeks out in terms of his return. You probably thought he would redshirt anyway.
Long term, add in Michael Smith next year, four-star guy out of Savannah. I think Michael Smith's sort of recruiting process and his ranking has been a little bit lost in the shuffle compared to some other guys that, frankly, aren't even as highly recruited as he is. Number right now, 114 in the country, number 10 tight end in the country, number 15 prospect in Georgia, according to the On3 industry ranking. So this is a true blue chipper there. You'll lose Trey Knox. You may lose Josh Simon. So the guys already on campus, they'll have a chance to step in and step up. But Michael Smith, I think, already a guy South Carolina has probably circled and said, moving forward, going to be a big part of what they do on tight end in their pretty much not too distant future.
Heard from several guys yesterday speaking to the media as camp rolls on. One of them was Spencer Rattler. We'll hear what our quarterback had to say coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
All right, guys, I've been telling you all week, and if you haven't gotten over there yet, you still have time. Head on over to our friends at Gold Line Framing in West Columbia. Great for a gift for someone in your life. Also great if you want to buy yourself a gift. If you've got a jersey, if you've got a flag, if you've got maybe there's a photo that's been autographed that's special to you. How about a custom framing job from Gold Line Framing in West Columbia? They also do diplomas, original artwork, canvases, again, jerseys and flags. They've been in business for over 20 years, so you're going to be taken great care of. It's at 511 12th Street, West Columbia. In store, there's also an art gallery, home decor, furniture, and many, many gift items. If you got questions, give them a call, 803-739-1337. They're open Tuesday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and then Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Also, give them a follow on Instagram at Goldline Framing SC. Again, that's Goldline Framing, West Columbia, 511 12th Street.
What did Spencer Rattler have to say about the scrimmage on Saturday? That's coming up. You're listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
I liked everything. I mean, we were explosive, threw for a lot of yards. We got down in the red zone, got to finish at a higher rate down there, but, we were explosive, had a lot of explosives, protected the ball, didn't have any turnovers, so that's a great thing for, each group.
Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. That is eternal optimist Spencer Rattler telling us what he thought of the scrimmage on Saturday. And, again, it was closed to media, it was closed to fans, so we weren't going to get too much insight there, but I can't imagine he loved everything. Maybe there are a few things that need to improve on, but he at least didn't tell us that.
He said everything, Tyler. You got to take him at his word. No, Spencer Rattler is, in all seriousness, there's a legitimate, I think, excitement for him. And it started really early, like as soon as Dowell Loggins was hired. I don't want to say it was like a switch flip, but you could tell Spencer's like, this is what we need. I like this. I'm excited about this because it was evident that there was going to be, based on even the early conversations, and then when they actually got on the field starting in spring ball, that there was going to be more of a partnership, right? Like that's what these guys, Dowell Loggins and Spencer Rattler, have called it, a partnership where they're going to lean on each other. What are you comfortable with? What am I comfortable with? And there's going to be a mix of all different concepts. I mean, they're going to take things, we've said this before, but to reiterate, there's going to be things from last year that worked, and there were some. There's going to be things from Oklahoma, probably more West than we saw previously. I think we're going to see more Oklahoma concepts than we saw. Things that Spencer Rattler's comfortable with. Things from the NFL, things from Arkansas, and just kind of mix them together. But, yeah, they seem to get along. They seem to gel, and I think that's important. There's a lot of other things that go into it, players making plays, what play is called at what time. But I think just these two being on the same page, having a good relationship, having a good partnership, I think that counts for a lot, actually.
I do kind of even wonder how much this played into Rattler's decision to come back. Like I do think even just kind of in a vacuum, it probably was the right decision because he's needed to put himself in that position to go higher than where he was projected last year. But having the opportunity to actually have some ownership here and be a big part of what they do on offense, not just to the extent of a normal quarterback where it's, hey, here's what we're going to do, you have to go do it. More, hey, let's design this thing together. I think probably a great learning experience for Spencer Rattler. It's going to help him in the future, I think, as well. And I do think these guys have connected so well because a good part of it could be Rattler's experience so far in the college football game as a quarterback, but also Dow Loggins' experience in the NFL. He talked at length during the after the Birdies with Beamer thing about just the different situations he was in the NFL. Many times he's coming in, this guy was so young when he got his start as a coordinator. He's coaching quarterbacks that are veterans that are older than him.
Yep.
And so it's very, very difficult to, you kind of have to be careful what you say. Very difficult to, I would think, coach from a coaching style standpoint when you're a young Dow Loggins with an older Jay Cutler. That was the guy he kept bringing up. And so I do think both guys have been able to lean on their experience. Obviously, in this case, Loggins is the coach, and he's the guy, and it's his decision, and his name is going to be on it at the end. But this partnership has been very beneficial for both guys. We've seen what Spencer Rattler looks like when you sort of unlock Super Spencer. So I think for them, it's going to be about how often can you unlock that, and then on the middle ground, the kind of everything's not going perfect, but everything's not going really bad. Kind of the just week to week, the bulk of your season is where you kind of live. That middle 80% can Spencer remain comfortable, and the most important thing, remain upright, because this offense is going to go wherever the offensive line takes it, and that ultimately I think is going to be the determining factor in their success.
One part of this offense that many people are looking forward to is the addition of Nick Harbor. Here's what Spencer had to say about him.
He's just a big, laid-back dude off the field. Very relaxed, very calm. Obviously, high IQ, very smart person, smart football player. On the field, he turns into a beast. Pancaking dudes, dumping guys. I mean, he's the full package you want for an O-lineman, and he can play multiple positions. So he's a great strength up front for us.
And we've talked about this plenty in these past couple weeks that, to temper your expectations of what Harbor is going to be this season for South Carolina. But we do know in these past couple days, at least, with Juice Wells stepping back a little bit for precautionary reasons to be healthy for game number one, guys like Nick Harbor, guys like Omega Blake have stepped it up and gotten more reps at that wide receiver spot. So more of an opportunity to build some chemistry between Rattler and Harbor.
On the spot question. Play a sound effect. Ding. Read into Rattler saying he can play multiple positions, or was that a throwaway line that Rattler just kind of just threw out there because he's heard about what the guy did in high school?
Did we play the Harbor clip? I think that was that an offensive line clip instead of Harbor? Because didn't he say, he said the word offensive line?
No, he was specifically asked about Harbor.
Huh. Well, Harbor doesn't play O-line. That would be a plot twist. He said the O-line and then up front. I don't know. Either way, to answer your question.
Okay, yeah, should we check the tape? Do we need an instant replay on
roll
this?
Tape? Tyler, can we roll tape on that?
All right, we don't have to play. We'll check it out check it out during the break.
Check it out.
I guess, but
pretty sure that was answering the question about Harbor. Because he was asked about Gargiulo before that, which I also have a cut for.
Yeah.
So, Gargiulo definitely played multiple
He can play
positions.
multiple positions, and he's a big physical guy.
Dumping people, as he said.
Yeah.
That was a great term.
I was sitting here getting excited about Harbor
pancaking
guys on the outside, so I don't know.
I'll check the tape in the break and see if maybe some wires got crossed.
We have taken this to instant replay. Hopefully, it's better than MLB's instant replay. It's a struggle.
Robo-ump.
Yeah.
No, I mean, here. Let me do my own on the spot then. Almost asked you this yesterday, Wes. So we were talking about expectations for Harbor, talking about the impact he could have. Is his impact this? If we look back at 2023, and we're all going to kind of measure what type of impact he had, is there a statistical number that you're going to look at? Or is it just about his snaps or what he did on special teams or the fact that he was able to go in the game and serve kind of as a decoy and catch? Like yesterday you're talking about, they're going to throw him some deep balls, right? We expect that. Some of them are going to hit. Some of them are not going to hit. Whether that's just you miss it by a couple yards, maybe he hauls one in, maybe he drops one. Is there like a bar that you can set of what the expectations should be?
I don't have a number on it.
I don't either.
I don't have a number at all.
Like, it's just kind of like
it's eye test.
It's eye test. It's you know it when you see it, and then I think you just kind of assess it as the year goes on.
Here's where I would put it in my head. The comparison of opportunities to make a big play. So can he capitalize? There are going to be opportunities for him to have explosive plays, whether that is literally catching a ball down the field or making what probably technically isn't an explosive play, but is like a game-changing play in special teams, versus balls up in the air and maybe he misses it. Maybe he has a chance at it. Maybe it's an 80% catch rate on a ball, but it falls to the turf. Those are going to be kind of my things to judge. There will be chances that the snaps go up as the season progresses. That would be a sign that he's doing, coming along and stuff like that. I have, frankly, truly, honestly, I have no number in my head whatsoever as far as what is fair to expect from him. To me, it's going to be all eye test.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think you can look at it and say, oh, he needs to have, just making up a number, he needs to have 20 catches this year. He needs to have 5 touchdowns. I don't really think you can do that. I tend to agree with you. Eye test, and it's a lot more of, I think you'll just know it when you see it, and when the year's over, you can put it in proper perspective.
You just gave me one of our first buy or sells, I think.
Ooh.
It's going to be a stat. So 2 weeks from now will be game week, which we'll be doing a buy or sell for that game. So next week, we will debut our first buy or sell of the season, and that we would do buy or sell for topics on the entire year.
I love it.
Sounds good.
Will that be presented by Kendall Walsh?
It will, and you're going to hear me tell everybody about her here in a second.
Fantastic. So look forward to that next week. Coming up, do you want to hit a little bit of recruiting news as we wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
That's right. We will be bringing back Buy or Sell, and as always, will be brought to you by our friend Kendall Walsh. She is with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Medley here in Columbia, South Carolina. They also have an office in Greenville, South Carolina. 803-414-3590 is how you can get in touch with Kendall. Or if you're into social media, just give her a follow on Instagram. Work with Walsh. If you're in the market for a new home, I'm sure if you've seen any headlines out there about interest rates, about the housing market, about everything going on in that part of the world, it can be much like a college football season. It can be a roller coaster. You're going to need somebody to help you navigate that. You're going to need somebody who has been through it, who has been through the ups and the downs of dealing with the market. And Kendall did that for myself and my wife when we were in the market for a new home. Also helped my mother-in-law sell her home. Smooth process all the way through the entire thing. She can do the exact same thing for you. Give Kendall Walsh a call, 803-414-3590.
All right, a little bit of recruiting news. What significant recruit put South Carolina in their top 5? That's next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, here on 107.5 The Game. Reminder, the Tommy Moody Show coming up tonight at 6 o'clock right here on 107.5 The Game. Going to take a look at 60 years of Gamecock quarterbacks from Altoona to Bel Air, from Lamar to Greensboro, from Americus to Flowery Branch, and everywhere in between. 60 years of Gamecock quarterbacks tonight with Tommy Moody on the Tommy Moody Show. Again, 6 o'clock right here on 107.5 The Game. Speaking of quarterbacks, a little bit of news coming out yesterday on the recruiting front. 2025 quarterback prospect Ryan Montgomery released his top 5, which includes Florida, Georgia, Penn State, Michigan, South Carolina.
Yeah, a guy they've been sort of steadily, I would say, building a position with, you would say. They offered him a little bit later than some other schools because they were waiting to go through the process of evaluating him in person. And he visited in April, I think landed the offer in May. Loggins went and saw him in person, did the whole in-person eval for that eval period that always takes place in the spring. And the visit down here went really well. Really liked Shane Beamer, really likes Dal Loggins, and will actually be back on campus for the Florida game. So this is a family, some families, maybe the recruiting process is new for them. They've been through it already. His older brother is a highly recruited prospect as well that signed with Ohio State. And so they've been through the process. They know how it works. It's going to be, I think, methodical, but they kind of know what they're looking for. It's going to be step by step. Here are the schools we're interested in, cut it down, and then make a decision. I don't think this one's going to go incredibly long. I think it'll be thorough, but decisive as far as his process goes. But from what I've heard, the Gamecocks have very much piqued his interest. I don't want to say we're at the point of saying there's a leader or anything, but Carolina has definitely grabbed his attention.
Interesting that Ohio State wasn't on there.
I kind of anticipated they would be.
Yeah. Not on there. Michigan, big rival.
Yes. And he's going to the Michigan-Ohio State game.
Yes. It'll be fascinating. It seems like Michigan has been a pretty big factor. Obviously, all the 5 schools in his top 5 are all big factors for their own reasons. The schools that have seemed to have the most buzz, if you can not narrow it down, but kind of put tiers even in a top 5, Michigan, South Carolina, and Florida. Agree?
Yeah. Yeah, Florida definitely appears to be in that mix as well. A couple of the other schools, I didn't know if they, I don't think I knew or would have guessed that Penn State was necessarily going to make the 5. At one, it was a 5. Then at one point, I think they were going to do a top 6 instead, but then they settled on these 5. South Carolina, this visit has been set up for a while, so it's already. It was kind of always, I would say, fairly determined. It was always fairly likely, I guess is probably the best way to say it, that they were going to make this first cut, going to make this top 5. And they obviously do. So he's gonna be one of these guys that takes a very close look at how Loggins operates the offense, how Rattler plays within the offense, and sharp kid, great family as far as just kind of having a feel for how all this is going to work out. So certainly a guy to keep an eye on. There's a handful of guys to watch for that 2025 class. We know they got Dante Reno for 14. We know they have Landon Duckworth for 24. They have Duckworth for 26. And he is one of the guys, Ryan Montgomery, that they are looking for 25.
And he has the potential to be the first commit of the 2025 class for Carolina. You mentioned Duckworth, who is 26, so we have skipped over a year in terms of commitments we have so far, but Ryan Montgomery could certainly be that first guy.
Yes, definitely could be. Wants to decide before his senior year.
All right, and that'll do it for today's edition.
We did go to the tape on...
We did. That was my bad. The question was posed, Nick. He did not say Gargiulo or Harbor, so I'm going to blame... I'm going to blame Yuva on this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, give yourself a pass on that one. There were too many Nicks involved in this.
Yeah, too many Nicks on the team. All right, that'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show with Jay and Terry up next here on 107.5 The Game.